Hello and welcome to another making of British IBM video. This one is all about the making of a song called Things Change. Things do change sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse, sometimes for no reason whatsoever. It's a song that I wrote at some point in 2023, at the end of last year, depending on when you're watching this. Last year, if you're watching this next year, last year would be 2024. Time works like that. I wrote it on an acoustic guitar, and it sounded a bit like this. Take it easy, take it all. On the chin, no one will be there when you fall. These moments living. And I liked it. I like that song. I wrote it, I liked it, and at least, I know music is obviously subjective, but at least one other person liked it, because I played it live on one of my Friday night Twitch streams, and one person that heard it on the Twitch stream liked it enough to learn it and did a cover of it shortly after I'd only played it once, and that was one of the Twitch regulars called Virus, and his version sounded like this.
Things change, and when they do, you'll never be the same again. What doesn't kill you, slowly driving you.
So I thought it would be quite cool to take the song into the studio and record it properly, which is something that happens sometimes. Sometimes you write a song and nothing happens to it, and sometimes you write a song and you think, wouldn't mind taking that into the studio. This is one of the songs that ended up going into the studio. So this video is the journey of going from acoustic song with the lyrics scribbled on a bit of paper all the way to fully formed studio song, and all the things that happened along the way. Before heading into the studio, I always like to do as much prep as possible when it's not costing money, because I'm tight. I don't want to spend money in the studio if I don't have to. So all the experimentation and all the other bits, you kind of want to do as much of that on this side as you can. So, or I do anyway. If I was the Rolling Stones and I had loads of money, then obviously I might just go straight into the studio. But all those things, like if I want to see what it sounds like with the capo on another fret or in another tempo, generally want to try and figure out those things at home beforehand. So what I do is play the song to a click track in Cubase and start messing around with it, overdubbing it, play it a bunch of different ways, do a few demos to see what's what. Also, I ended up putting the song, maybe one of those demos and possibly the acoustic version, I think I put into a Dropbox, send that off to Dave and Scott so that they could mess around with it as well if they wanted to, if they had any thoughts or strong opinions on it. Scott came back with a few things. One thing that he came back with that was really cool was a drum beat, which he'd kind of been influenced a little bit by the Walkman, if you remember them. He came up with the Walkman sort of drum beat, and it was sounded cool, and that's the drum beat that we ended up going with. So the reason that I've got, let me just move that out of the way so I can see what I'm doing. So there's a reason I've got Cubase open here and I'm in the corner of the screen, so I could go through that part of the journey of this song with you. This is one of those demos. So what I did, which is what most people do in their demo, is you write a song, you play it to a click track, try and figure out the BPMs. This is one of the renditions. The finished song sounds nothing like this. So this shows you, just illustrates how much a song can change over the course of its life. I'll tell you what I'll do. I did this, first of all, create a drum beat. I programmed that, and it is 155 BPM. Listen to that. Then I sang and played acoustic guitar. Where's my acoustic guitar? I think that's that one. But yeah, this is the end song sounds nothing like this. This was quite I end up using distorted electric guitars, quite heavy sounding drums, and even putting some synth as well, some sort of this synth here. There's an organ there as well. all together sounds like this. And the other thing that I did with this version is I ended up coming down on the chorus. I like the idea of kind of it being a big song, then it comes down, you get the chorus, and then it comes back up for the verses. So if you listen to that bit.
Things change, when they do, you'll never be the same again.
And then when you come out the other side.
Another call when you don't.
Doesn't sound anything like that in the finished version, but that's one of the left turns that it took. So what happened after that? Let me consult my notes. So the next step is for Dave, Scott and myself to just all get into a room and just play the song through live a few times so that we kind of all know what we're doing with our parts. And then once we've played it through and we're kind of happy with the drums and the bass and everything else, and we're confident we can play it all the way through, we'll generally set up a camera phone somewhere in the room, and just we've got a reference point then for when we're in the studio. Someone says, I can't remember what I played when we're in the rehearsal room. We can get the phone out and go, that's what you did. And we like that. So after that, we headed to Half Ton Studios in Cambridge to lay down the foundations of the song with Bugs. We did that over, I think it was a weekend, might have been a Saturday or a Sunday. It's not really relevant, but we went to the studio and we recorded. Essentially, we did what we usually do at this point. So we had a tempo in mind, which I believe was 148 BPM we settled on. Scott plays to a click. We play to Scott, and then we end up at that point with a drum with drums, and then the bass goes down, the rhythm guitar, and we even had a little bit of time afterwards to add some backing vocals. So Dave put some backing vocals on too. So at some point after going into the studio, Bug sent back a rough mix of the 148 BPM studio rendition and all the stems as well. So I took that rough mix and then I just dropped it into Cubase and set my Cubase project up to 148, so I could just experiment with any other potential overdubs that might go with the new foundations that we've got at this point. So if I get rid of that, you can kind of see some ideas. Some of this got used and some of it didn't. It sounded like some songs you feel like you can hear things there, like you're thinking, if you listen to something like Bob Noyce, there's quite a lot going on in that, and then another song like Matthew Smith has got barely anything. I couldn't really hear a whole lot. It felt like it should be a fairly simplistic song in terms of what was going on with it. So what I did, let me just show you the rough mix first of all. You can hear there the piano. So that's the only thing I could really hear. Was I could hear, it felt like it needed something underneath that you could barely hear. So kind of like some piano stabs and some organ. So that's what I ended up adding there. You can hear the organ there. I'll take that. Really subtle. And then very subtle piano stabs. The other overdub idea that I came up with was these additional backing vocals, which I didn't use, but this is some of my experiments that didn't get used. You can hear I've used a synth there, so I put a bit of MIDI in there to hear where the backing vocals would go before I sang them. So I'd sang to the synth. I'll take that out. And with the track. Wasn't keen on that. It just made it too, I don't know what the word is, precocious. I don't think it sounds precocious, but I think precocious makes me sound more intelligent than I am if I use words like that. So let's go with precocious. That made it sound way too precocious having those backing vocals. And then the other idea that I had, which kind of sort of sounded all right-ish, was some piano noodling over the second verse. Can you hear, where is that piano noodling? Is it here? There you go, that. So that was after going through all that. I think Scott had some ideas for some guitar bits. Already had Dave's backing vocals on the studio version. So my idea was we'll have some little bit of organ in there, a little bit of piano. Luckily, one of the Twitch bar regulars, one of the guys that goes to the Twitch stream on a regular basis, called Simon, I've already said his name, Simon, plays piano. He plays piano properly, and he agreed to do some of the piano noodling for us. So I sent over the track to him. He played some really good piano over it and redid the piano stabs. Came up with some new piano parts for it, and he sent that all over, some WAVs of that stuff and some midis as well, so that we could chop it up and do things with it. Then the next thing after that, after all this had happened, all of this stuff that had been created, all of the stuff that we wanted to be used, the stems, the rough mix, the new overdubs, all got sent over the internet to... Who did it get sent to? It got sent to Owen at Sick Room Studios. Owen at Sick Room Studios then made sense of all the stuff that we'd sent over to him, and he made it into a proper song, and it sounded really good. So that's it, really. That is the journey of a song. That's how we got from this
Another car you don't need.
to this.
Things change.